Hello, and welcome to my channel. My name is Laura, and I like to craft stuff, and I want to work with these three fabrics today. I did pick them out together. I picked them out together at Joann's. I was a little worried that these two might be too close in darkness, but I think it'll be okay for what I've picked out. I want to work out of this book, Encyclopedia of Pieced Quilt Patterns by Barbara Brackman. And I want to do this pattern piece. I don't believe I've done this one. In this book, they've titled it The Calico Puzzle. I was thinking, I was actually thinking I'm going to do these two with the half square triangle. And then the black will be the centerpiece. And then this will be the squares that are the other fabric. I think that'll be cute. So that's the plan. I suspect I'm going to go with 4-inch squares total. So we'll do the 10-inch 8 at a time squares for the half square triangles. Yeah. All right. Let's get started. So I try to post every other Tuesday. I think I'm on a 3-week schedule right now. Things have been busy. But just so you know, if you want to like and subscribe and all that good stuff, here I am. I am cutting out 4-inch strips from the fabric that'll just be the squares. And then I go on to do 4-inch strips out of the out of this fabric, and then I do 10-inch strips for my 8 at a time half square triangle way. This is a little tricky doing the 10-inch strips, but luckily for me, because I tend to cut them down, the half square triangles, once I'm finished, to the 4 inches, it works out. But I'm not going to pretend like my cuts aren't a little wonky at times. Then I go on to cut these strips into actual squares. So here I am cutting the 4-inch strips into 4-inch squares. With my 10-inch squares, I always draw lines corner to corner in both directions, and this helps me when I'm sewing. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to line this fabric and another on top of each other, like so, and then I'm going to sew on either side of the line, and then when it's finished, I'm going to cut it so that it gives me 8 half square triangles. The next step is to iron all of these half square triangles open. My ironing board is disgusting. I'm sorry about that. I need a new cover. I need to make a new cover. Once I'm finished ironing all of them open, then I'm going to go into cutting and trimming them down to be 4 inches with my cool little ruler that has a divot in the middle. I do want to apologize because I thought I had filmed a clip of the next part of like actually laying out the block, and I did not. So here is what the block looks like. I sewed the first 2 columns or 2 rows together 2 at a time across before sewing them together, basically chain piecing, and then I did the final row before putting the entire thing together. That's how I like to do it. I don't know if there are other ways that other people like to do it. That's just how I like to do it. So I apologize I didn't get a clip of that, but this is the layout of the block, and I think that ultimately the block looks pretty good. I personally really enjoyed doing this block pattern. I was originally going to do the light purple fabric as a border around each block, but I wanted to see what the secondary pattern looked like, and this is kind of the vibe that I was getting, and I really liked it, so I laid the entire thing out just to make sure, but I do like it, and so does Lottie. She's checking it out. So I decided not to put borders around each of these blocks and just stick with the secondary pattern. I wound up with a total of 30 squares. So for this, the pattern gave me a lot, I feel like, because I think I had at least 3 yards of fabric per. So yeah, this was a nice, decent size quilt. And you can kind of see in the block picture, but I did wind up putting a border around the entire thing. I would say it's like a queen size. I don't have final measurements. I never do that. I'm sorry. But I'd say it's a pretty decent sized quilt, and I'm pretty happy with it. And here is the final layout and the final sewing. It's all put together. I really do actually like this quilt quite a lot. It's funny because the secondary pattern, you do kind of lose what the quilt block really looked like. So you could do this where it's just pinwheels and then you do strips for the sashing or whatever. But I kind of like the way that it turned out and that you're using the blocks to get the pinwheels rather than doing pinwheels. I still haven't technically done pinwheels actually, so maybe I'll do that someday. But all in all, I really like this quilt. It was pretty easy to put together, and yeah, I can't wait to eventually get it quilted 2 years from now, because that's kind of the schedule that we're going here. Thank you so much for joining me for another video. If you want to see more, subscribe, comment, like, all that good stuff. And I will see you in the next one. All right. Thanks. Bye.